My name is Mike Toper, and we've got some wonderful people today to discuss everything as far as revolutionizing your career. Right now, I'm joined by Tamara Loring, the Chief of Ideology for the Entrepreneur Source. And Tamara, this is your and I first time doing this together. Are we ready to rock or what?
Oh my gosh, I am so excited, Mike. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you, Mark, for being here. Yes, being in charge of ideology means that I absolutely obsess over what it takes to be self sufficient, what it takes to take charge of your own destiny and creating long term wealth and equity. So, am I ready? Boy, yes. Let's rock and roll.
She's been ready since last week. Oh, yeah. And you heard it there. We're also joined by Cindy Ecleberry and Mark Saunders. And I'll ask you guys just to introduce yourselves a little bit, starting with Cindy.
Hi, I'm Cindy Ecleberry. I am a TES career coach, and I've been with TES since I think I started June of 2021. Yep.
Excellent. Mark?
Hi, I'm Mark Saunders, and I'm an entrepreneur that had the good fortune of meeting Cindy. And I've been a franchise owner of Prep Academy Tutors for a little bit over 2 months, and we just opened the business in February, so 10 days ago. So it's super exciting,
Yes.
right on the edge, just getting launched.
All right. We're going to dive all into that out there in Boulder, Colorado, where Mark is located. And we're going to start with Mark actually right now. Fairly new business, as you just mentioned. Can you tell us a little bit about your career background before you got started as an entrepreneur?
How long do you have? No,
Well, we're trying to keep it under.
Look, it's pretty lengthy, but basically over the last 25 years, I've been either a college professor or a director of communications or an entrepreneur. And so I was the PR director for a major sports team in Denver. I was a college professor for about 15 years, and I've been involved in all kinds of entrepreneurial things, from publishing my own books to being part of 2 health startups. And Cindy came along in my life at exactly the right time. And it was, I was looking for something, and lo and behold, there it was. So divine timing.
Well, diving into that, at what point or what led to you kind of saying to yourself or kind of exploring that you needed to do something different, that you wanted to change?
The change was handed to me in the form of a pink slip. And so
Oh,
the company that I was with, I was the vice president and secretary of the company and on the board of directors, and the CEO of the company was, let's just say, not spending the money the way he should. And so it was brought to his attention, and shortly thereafter, I was asked to go. And so it was a complete and total shock to me because I co-founded the company. And so there I was kind of going, whoa, all right, now what's next? And so I applied. I was in the process of applying for a whole bunch of positions as communications directors for environmental companies. And then I got a call, or I think I got a LinkedIn, message from someone saying, would you be interested in taking a look at? And I thought, sure. I mean, it's like I'm a firm believer that divine speaks to you in a bunch of different languages, and so this was one of them. And I said, okay, I'll give it a shot. Let's see what happens. Nothing from nothing, kind of thing. And well, here we are.
Wow, Mark, I'm sure, gosh, that must have been gut wrenching when you got that pink slip, right? I mean,
That's one way of putting it.
I can only begin to imagine. Probably felt like, wow, I'm the only one out there that has been affected by that. But that is one of the reasons we actually wrote the Your Career Revolution book. Believe it or not, you're like 75% of the adult population finding themselves in a position where suddenly they feel like they have to reimagine and reclaim the life of their dreams, right? What does that look like? So it doesn't sound like you were planning to be an entrepreneur or go out on your own, but somehow you called it divine intervention. Something sparked a conversation with Cindy. Does that sound right?
That sounds absolutely right. And I'll sort of piggyback onto that. Excuse me. You don't expect things to happen, but then they do. And then when they do, you're kind of like, well, all right, now what am I going to do? And after exploring a lot of opportunities, sending out, I don't know how many resumes, maybe 60, maybe 100, to these basically positions that were communications directors, I got a couple of nibbles. And I kind of began to realize that maybe I'm being aged out here. I'm 63. And so it's like, is that part of this equation? And then I thought, I hate to look at that. But it's like, okay, so what am I going to do to secure my future for the next 10, 15 years? Then enter Cindy.
Yeah, well, here's a brilliant sign, by the way. We're going to get that quick plug. Your Career Revolution: Reimagine and Reclaim the Life of Your Dreams. The book that Tamara just referenced. You can find it most places you can get books right now, just released a few months ago. And that's kind of what we're talking about. Cindy, you've been sitting there very patiently for us.
Yeah.
Can you talk about what the process was like? Mark mentioned kind of how you guys met, but you've got that bonds with Tamara where you guys were both TES coaches and kind of gone through the system. What was the process like in working with Mark?
Well, I'll have to say Mark was very easy to work with. From the very first conversation that we had, we had a connection. And you don't always get that type of connection with your clients. I mean, I try to be very lighthearted and put my clients at ease, because a lot of them are, they're skeptical. They're not sure what you're talking to them about. They're a little afraid, what am I getting myself into? Mark was so easy to talk with, to connect with, and we just hit it off from the get-go. He got a text message or a message through LinkedIn from the CEC, which is a group at the TES that helps us in setting appointments and finding clients. And Jan found Mark through LinkedIn, and he agreed to have the appointment. So we had an initial call on the phone, and after I explained to him the program and what I did and the coaching process that we go through and the different options that we look at, he said, "Sure, let's do it." I said, "Okay." So that just started the process, and he was. I mean, he did his homework. He did what he was supposed to do. He did what I asked him to do. He looked at different options, but this particular option that I selected for him, or opportunity that I selected for him to look at, was I had a feeling that this was going to be the opportunity he was going to choose. And it was because of Mark's background and because of the connections that he had in Colorado. I felt like this was going to be the right thing. We did look at some other opportunities, but when he started looking at Prep Academy, it was the next phone call we had after he looked at Prep. He said, "That's it. This is the one." And I'm like, "Whoa, wait a minute. Are you sure?" Because we want them to make the right decision. And he said, "Yeah." He said, "That's it." And I said, "Well, okay, then let's go further." And we did. And but Mark he was wonderful to work with, so easy to work with, and he and I have we've we've become great friends. We even after our coaching process is over, and he's opened his business, we still stay in contact with each other, which I think is wonderful. And that's the part about my job that I like, is forming those bonds with your client, and being able to continue on with a friendship even after the work is completed. So.
Well, it sounds like, Mark, you are definitely a strong request for coaching, is what Cindy and I would refer to that too. Did she push you out of your comfort zone and help you look at things that maybe you never ever would have considered?
No, they weren't never evers, but there were things like, like for example, I mean, the guys at Mr. Appliance couldn't have been nicer, kinder, more generous people, salts of the earth. I was really taken with them, and it came down to making a decision, and some of it was financial, and some of it was intuition, and some of it was just like, I think this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So I went and did it. But it's the whole process was easy. I think that's really what stands out the most. And And Cindy, I'm going to pay you a compliment here. I think it was easy because there are three things that I need in any kind of relationship: friendship, business, personal, whatever. It's trust, respect, and reciprocity. And so if you have those three things, I think you're going to have a meaningful relationship with somebody. And I had those things immediately with Cindy. She was reciprocal. I could trust her just because of what she was saying to me, because she was extremely honest and laid all the cards out on the table. And, we had this immediate sense of respect for each other because, again, it goes back to honesty. Um, and from there, it just, like Cindy said, it just blossomed. Um,
Well, Mark, you guys too, you both come a little bit from the corporate world. You mentioned you had published two books and you worked in publishing. Cindy had published a home improvement magazine in her time. Well, the one thing I've noticed with TES, and certainly Tamara has seen this, is that they match people up who are sometimes more like-minded than others. I mean, you mentioned the bond and those three things that were important to you. Did you kind of feel that sense that you felt a little more connected because you did have some shared experiences?
that all kind of came out in the wash, if you know what I mean. It's like I didn't
Hmm.
know that going in. I mean, Cindy didn't say, "Well, I've done this and I've done that." It was nothing like that. It was just more like, "Oh yeah, well when I was doing this," but it was all organic. It wasn't like here's my credentials, or it was on a poster board behind her when we were talking or something. It was just really wonderful. I don't know how else to describe it. And the other thing too was, I mean, I obviously have a dog, but Cindy got a dog during the course of our mentoring process, and so that was another thing. I mean, two dog fanatics, talking about their dogs. What could be more boring? But anyway, it was great. I mean, it just made it that much more fun.
People love dogs, Mark. Come on. You put a picture of your kid, they're like, oh, nice kid. You put a picture of your dog, though. Everyone wants to see him. So, Cindy, would you talked about, and Mark obviously landed on a prep academy tutors where he's recently a new business owner. But what kind of factors in working together, and you mentioned finding the right opportunity, but what were some of the things, Cindy, that you guys either talked about or things that you as a coach kind of landed you on what we decide is the right opportunity for Mark?
Um, I think it was Mark's personality. I think it was the fact that he had been a professor. He knew what was going on in in our school system. He has a lot of friends and colleagues that are in the are in education. Some of them are in higher education, and so he knew what the situation was that COVID had brought on, that has put our students behind because that learning process was interrupted. And so a lot of students are, a year, some even a year and a half behind in where they need to be. And so Mark understood that. He got it. He has a passion for learning. When you talk to him, you hear about all these places he's been, the things he does, the things that he continues to do as hobbies. Um, the fact that he had published two books and was in communications. I mean, he understood it, and that's why I thought this. I think is really going to be. And I didn't push him. I didn't say, Mark, I think I found the perfect thing. I don't say that to my clients, but in my heart, I felt that that was going to be an opportunity that Mark was going to say, I like this, I get this, I can do this.
And Tamara, that's kind of what we talk about with your career revolution, right? The whole reimagining
Mhm.
point of view where, like you point out and Mark point out, it's not maybe not something that he said never, right? But just kind of a reimagining of what could be.
Well, and that's kind of what I'm kind of curious about. You took the words right out of my mouth there, Mike. If you rewind before you met Cindy, Mark, and you've been in corporate before, you've been an entrepreneur, you've seen quite a few things. Would you have imagined that not only that you would have gone into the franchise that you went with, but that franchising was even an option? Just kind of curious.
No. I jokingly told Cindy that if you told me that I was going to buy a franchise, I'd have told you, yeah, have a nice day. Yeah, um, I just didn't see it on the horizon at all. And you can call it a
Huh.
total blind spot, and I guess in a sense it was. To me, McDonald's was a franchise, and I just couldn't not never see myself doing that. Um, but there and again, it was like Cindy helped unpack my understanding of what it was, and so I could go, oh. And then, of course, you have this epiphany that you realize every second vehicle going past you on the road is a service truck for some kind of franchise. And I was just like, wow, they're everywhere. Kind of,
Yeah, where did
you
it
know?
come from,
Um,
right?
and then it was like, okay, there isn't a lot of money in education, to be honest with you. And unless you achieve some really outstanding results, or you've gone to a university and you're at the top of the chain, um, that you can make sufficient amount of money. But most teachers are struggling, and so I didn't want to go back to struggling. And tutoring might be the last vestige of entrepreneurism in education, because it allows people to make money doing what they love, both the tutors and the franchise owners, because it's work as much as you want to. And most of all the tutors have their own outside positions that they're doing, or they're retired, and this is just a supplemental way to make money. Um, but they're all fantastic. And so, going back to your question, Tamara, or is it Tamara or Tamara? Tomorrow.
Tomorrow,
Okay,
but that's
tomorrow.
okay.
So going back to your question, tomorrow. No, I didn't see it coming at all. And then when I saw it, it was like, huh. And then it was like, wait a minute, that's a really good idea. So I got on board pretty fast.
So what would you say? So I heard you say that, oh my gosh, initially if Cindy had led with franchising, you guys wouldn't have been talking. And you said your initial perception was, franchising, it's about what, fast food and French fries. What is the thing other than that every second vehicle on the road happens to be a franchise? What was the thing that you discovered that you appreciate about what your franchise provides you?
Having started a number of businesses, there wasn't that initial having to collect all the marketing pieces and putting them all together and looking at things like branding and colors, and you get handed that. Now, there's pluses and minuses with that. Oh, I wouldn't go with that font, or that color doesn't look good on Thursdays, whatever. But bottom line is that's taken off the plate. So you can kind of hit the ground running. You don't have to spend a lot of time in development, so to speak. Um, that was one of the key bonuses. And one of the best parts about this particular franchise, Prep Academy Tutors, is that the people who are the franchisors, Carly and Adrian Doherty, this isn't their first rodeo. They've done this before, and they're constantly available. And there's a business manager, Raymond Chima, and so she's always also available. And they've got it down. It's a well-oiled machine. So I don't have to reinvent the wheel. I don't have to figure out the hard knocks. And geez, if I had only not done that, that would have saved us $100,000 kind of feeling. That's taken care of.
Wow.
So I can just get out there and hustle, which I'm pretty good at. Not great. I mean, I have my insecurities as well, but I know what to do, and point me in the right direction, and let's go.
Yeah, you're part of a proven system. You know what system stands for, don't you, Mark?
Give me the acronym.
It stands for save yourself significant time, energy, and money. So what you've done is you've seen that they have a system. You said it's not their first rodeo, and you get to leverage their system. I mean, could you have created your own system? Absolutely. And you said you've done that before, but it takes a lot of time and trial and error and money. Where here you have a track to follow. So that's one of the things I love about systems. It's the fact that you get to save yourself significant time, energy, and money. And if you don't follow the system, of course, that's when you in trial and error again, you may cost yourself significant time, energy, and money.
Yeah,
So that's the difference between, I guess, by and large, franchise systems versus maybe independent businesses that, it's possible, right, to get to that point, but you just don't know what you don't know.